Why do certain voices split the world in half? Why do some people seem to thrive on outrage, attracting both fierce devotion and relentless hatred? And why does silencing them rarely kill their influence? In fact, often it multiplies it. Today, we're diving into the mind of the provocateur, the person who deliberately engineers conflict and whose impact on psychology doesn't end with their life. This isn't about people who simply have strong opinions. This is about individuals who understand that conflict itself is power. They do not enter conversations to debate. They enter to dominate, to pull people into their gravity, to force the world to either stand with them or against them. And in the process, they rewire the minds of millions. We're going to explore how these figures change the mental ecosystem of their followers, why they inspire so much fear in institutions, and how their deaths often transform them into something more enduring than flesh and blood. A symbol. By the end, you'll see why polarizing speakers are not just controversial voices, but players in a deeper psychological war that shapes how entire societies think, feel, and fight. A provocateur doesn't communicate the way ordinary people do. They don't speak to inform, they speak to ignite. Every word is designed as a spark. They strip away nuance and present the world in absolutes. There is no gray, only black and white. No different opinions, only enemies and allies. It's truth versus lies, us versus them, survival versus extinction. This technique is not random. It taps into something hardwired in the human brain. Psychologists call it the need for cognitive closure. When life feels chaotic or uncertain, people crave simple answers and clear boundaries. The provocateur offers them that certainty, even when it comes packaged in exaggeration or distortion. But here's the paradox. The more unreasonable they sound to outsiders, the more authentic they sound to their followers. Their defiance signals bravery. The very act of saying what others won't becomes evidence that they must be telling the truth. The provocateur doesn't try to win over everyone. They aim to create a hardened core of loyal believers. Love and hate both fuel attention, and attention is their oxygen. Once a provocateur takes root in someone's mind, the mental landscape begins to shift. Normally, people gather ideas from different voices, balancing perspectives the way a healthy ecosystem balances species. But when one voice dominates, balance collapses. Fear becomes the soil of the mind. Constant reminders of danger, whether real or exaggerated, make people hyper-vigilant. The provocateur positions themselves as the only safe guide through the chaos. Fear narrows perception until everything outside their message feels hostile. Outrage becomes the air. Neuroscience shows that outrage releases chemical rewards in the brain. Each shocking statement becomes addictive. Followers tune in not just to hear what the provocateur will say next, but to feel the rush that comes with being enraged. Slowly, they become hooked on the emotional intensity itself, and identity becomes the trunk of the tree. At first, people say, "I listen to this speaker." Then it becomes, "I agree with this speaker." Eventually, it transforms into, "I am one of them." The line between personal identity and ideological loyalty vanishes. Attacking the provocateur feels like attacking the self. Disagreement becomes betrayal. Once this fusion takes place, persuasion no longer matters. Facts don't matter. What matters is loyalty, and loyalty is nearly impossible to shake. At this point, provocateurs attract more than just audiences. They attract enemies. Systems of power, governments, corporations, cultural institutions view them as dangerous. not necessarily because of the specific words they say, but because of the loyalty they inspire. A loyal base is unpredictable, emotional, and resistant to outside influence. It cannot be bought, and it cannot be easily redirected. This is why provocateurs are targeted with smear campaigns, censorship, deplatforming, lawsuits, and public ridicule. The aim is to weaken their hold. But here lies the paradox of persecution. Every attack strengthens the bond between speaker and follower. If the provocateur has warned, they will try to silence me. Then censorship becomes evidence. Persecution becomes proof. Followers interpret attacks not as reasons to doubt, but as validation. This psychological trap is known as the backfire effect. Attempts to discredit someone only make their supporters more entrenched. The harder institutions push, the more they solidify the myth. That's the danger. Suppression doesn't destroy provocateurs. It often immortalizes them. And nothing immortalizes more powerfully than death. While alive, provocateurs are flawed, human, easy to criticize. They make mistakes. They contradict themselves. But in death, flaws fade and myth takes over. Followers reinterpret their lives as sacrifices. They say they died because they told the truth. They died because the system couldn't allow them to live. This transformation is ancient. Throughout history, polarizing figures who were mocked or rejected in life often became revered after death. Their absence creates a vacuum, and human psychology hates a vacuum. The mind rushes to fill it, rewriting the story to make sense of the loss. And so, death creates martyrs. A person can be silenced. A symbol cannot. A person can change their mind or contradict themselves. A symbol is pure, untouchable, and infinitely adaptable. Once someone becomes a symbol, their story stops belonging to them. It belongs to the people who carry it forward. That's why the death of a provocateur rarely ends their influence. In fact, it often multiplies it. Their followers no longer defend a flawed human being. They defend an idea, a legend, a ghost that cannot be canceled. So let's put all of this together. What makes provocateurs so dangerous to their enemies and so powerful to their audiences is not just what they say. It's the psychological programming they install. Fear becomes the foundation of loyalty. Outrage becomes the fuel that keeps people returning. Identity fusion locks that loyalty into place. Add external persecution, and you've created an unbreakable bond. And if death enters the equation, the bond becomes eternal. This isn't just communication, it's psychological warfare. The provocateur doesn't win by persuading everyone. They win by becoming impossible to ignore. Even people who despise them help spread their influence, because outrage itself is attention. In the end, their enemies amplify them as much as their followers do. That is the cruel genius of the provocateur's psychology, to feed on both love and hate, and to transform both into fuel. Here's the deeper realization. Provocateurs don't just change how their followers see the world. They change how everyone sees the world. If you love them, you reshape your worldview around their message. If you hate them, you reshape your worldview in opposition to them. Either way, they've altered your perception. This is the true power of polarization. It doesn't matter whether you are for or against them. What matters is that you are thinking about them, reacting to them, spending your energy in their orbit. That is the victory. To control the frame of the conversation so completely that ignoring them becomes impossible. It's easy to believe that influence is about agreement. But in the case of the provocateur, Influence is about fixation. They don't need your approval to shape you. They only need your attention. So the next time you see a polarizing speaker under attack, censored or even memorialized, pause and ask yourself, what's really happening here? Is this just about one individual? Or is it about something much bigger? The battle for control over your mental ecosystem. The real danger is not whether you agree with them or oppose them. The danger is forgetting that your reaction, your loyalty, your anger, even your silence, can all become part of the story they've already designed. The Provocateur thrives on your attention, no matter how it's given. If this breakdown opened your eyes to the hidden mechanics at play, make sure to subscribe, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Remember, what you don't see often shapes you more than what you do. Stay sharp, stay aware. This is Dark Honey.